Hi, folks. Welcome to Color Music Collective's Backline panel, where we will be chatting with some of the music industry's most key players in venue operations and booking. My name is Marcella. My pronouns are she, they. I'm the executive director of COMC, as well as one of your co-moderators tonight with COMC's founder, Mia Van Allen. So with that, we will jump right into introductions with our panelists. If everyone could go around, briefly say your name, your pronouns, company, and clients, that'd be awesome. And let's kick it off with Candace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace Newman, and I go by she, her as my pronouns. And I am the CEO and founder of Live Out Live. Live Out Live is an organization and platform that I created in 2019, inspired by my own career and journey within the live music industry. I was a live music industry executive for Live Nation for 11 years, where I booked and promote concerts and tours. I found that there was very little representation in that space for women, and particularly women of color and of non-binary backgrounds. So I created Live Out Live, inspired by that space. And I have a number of clients. We do a lot of platform partnerships and provide resources and pipeline opportunities, job opportunities, mentorships. And also we book and promote concerts and shows and bring aboard some of the people who are interested in working in the live music industry to help execute those live shows and concerts. So I'm excited to be here to share more about my background and to share more insight on the live booking industry overall. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Candace. Fantastic. How about you, Dana?
Hi, my name is Dana. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Baltimore. I book shows for the Ottobar. We're like a 400 cap rock club. I also book shows independently. I've been doing unregistered nurse booking for probably 13 years at this point, booking shows all over Baltimore and other places. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us. And how about you, Amanda?
Hi, I'm Amanda Verdadero. My pronouns are she, her, and I am currently the production coordinator at the Forum in Inglewood, California. So I work with the production team, bringing in the tours, helping all of the production elements go up. So audio, lighting, rigging, all that fun stuff, and was previously a lighting designer at the Echo and the Echoplex, also in Los Angeles.
Great to have you. Thanks, Amanda. And how about you, Jordan?
Hi, I'm Jordan Anderson. My pronouns are she, her. I am the sole talent booker at Troubadour in Los Angeles. I just moved here 3 weeks ago and took this job about a month and a half ago. Very excited to be here. We are an indie room. We're 500 cap and we book all genres. Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. With that, I will throw it over to Mia for our first question.
Yes. So my first question is, for booking, how do you know whether an artist would be a good fit for your specific venue? Are there any specific qualifications they must meet to perform live at your show?
I'll start with this one. For us specifically, I don't know if there's any, there are no real metrics. We're kind of just listening to stuff. We try to book all kinds of different stuff. Whatever sounds interesting. Part of it just depends on if we have the date available, but we do try to book pretty inclusively and break out of just being like a typical rock club that has kind of like a very singular perspective. We want to hear from all different types of people, all different types of genres. We really want people to feel included and like a part of our space.
Yeah, I'll piggyback that. Definitely agree with Dana. And then also for us, we do take a look at, do these bands have history in the market? Have they played LA before? If they're a baby band, do they have the potential to sell, X amount of tickets? That does matter. And if they haven't yet, or we don't think they can, and maybe the word hasn't quite got around LA yet, which sometimes is rare, I imagine, but we try to encourage them to either jump on as a support slot somewhere or go play a smaller room before making their way to the Troubadour.
I'll add more to that as well. I don't have a specific venue that I work with, but as a talent buyer and booker, I definitely agree with what Jordan and what Dana has shared as far as understanding the artist, not having a specific metric or idea of the artist that we want to book, but just knowing how to put them in the proper rooms, knowing how many tickets they're worth, knowing what audience that they're going to play in, knowing what type of show they want to produce, whether it's an intimate show or a mass show. So just really understanding the type of artist that we're putting into any specific room, whether it is in a club or theater or in an arena or stadium, just knowing what they're worth and knowing how to market them properly within that specific space. So, you know, I really enjoy booking a wide range of talent and putting them in all kinds of different rooms and seeing them actually evolve as a talent, seeing them grow from clubs and theaters into eventually arenas and stadiums. So, you know, diversity is key when it comes to providing an artist a platform. And there is no specific measure on, you know, what that looks like. As long as you can play music and perform, you can do it. So that works out.
How about you, Amanda? Anything to add to that question?
I'm not really a booker, so I don't have a ton of experience in that area. I mean, I know for our venue specifically, the Forum, we don't book any specific promoter. We work with a lot of different promoters, which is really cool. And I know the LA market it's just open to so many different acts that come in, like such diversity that we can host. Like we host a lot of Latin shows, but we also work with like Live Nation and AEG a lot. So just a broad audience in our area. But you know, I like everyone has said, like I don't think it's specific to anything. I think it's just, can they sell in this market? Like, have they done other tours that kind of prove that the artist can sell out a venue that big?
Great, thanks. And for anyone who wants to chime in here, I have a quick follow-up question. So is there a sort of fine line that you toe, you know, between, you know, do you fear sort of pigeonholing the venue within a certain genre or to certain acts, or, you know, do you, you know, focus on growth in terms of, you know, booking larger acts, or are you ever towing that specific line between staying within a specific sector and wanting the venue to grow? Is that something that you have to navigate very often? Anyone who wants to chime in?
I definitely think that's something that you have to kind of consider. For myself personally, I started booking punk shows, and that's always the kind of music that I'm drawn to. That's what I really love. But, you know, it's also really important to branch out. So I try to kind of be mindful of both of those things. You know, yeah, it's really easy for a venue to kind of get thrown in a specific category. So, you know, it is kind of a delicate balance of knowing the type of people who want to come to your venue and who like going there without booking the same things too many times.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then another thing you have to consider, especially for us, since we are indie and we don't have promoters coming in this room, is, are they going to drink? Are there going to be any bar sales? Is the room going to make money off of that? Which is it's a huge factor, especially coming off of last year. So while we definitely try to book everything, and I'm personally very mindful of that, I also think about, hey, how does this room make money too? So balancing that calendar, so there is a little bit of everything to make everybody happy, and also, you know, having a good time in the room. But you want the room to sell tickets as well.
Absolutely. And so for our next question, a ton of our volunteers and a lot of our audience are either high schoolers or in college, just young folks trying to make it in the music business. So how can someone start a career in your field? Is there any particular work experience that you would recommend? You know, anything that looks good on a resume or in terms of internships, any advice you can provide?
I'll jump into this one. So I think for me, what was most helpful in getting into the industry was just working in a theater. I went to USC and I got a job on campus, just working on like on campus theater, and that's really where I learned everything about lighting and audio and like just how backstage works, how just the show works in general. Because I work in production, and from a production standpoint, I just didn't really know any of those things. So that's really where I kind of started learning it all. So I'd say maybe if you have like a local venue in your area, you can kind of get your hands dirty and start working in there. Try and like reach out and do any sort of internships. But I'd also say volunteering as well. Like I volunteered at the Levitt Pavilion in Los Angeles, just as they do a small concert series for the local community. So I was just volunteering there one summer, and the person who was actually running Monitors she worked at the Troubadour, so I was able to get an internship at the Troubadour through her. Which was cool, and that kind of got me started on more of an audio path. So I feel like sometimes you never know who you're going to meet. If you just start volunteering somewhere, that could lead to more roads, you know? So I always think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I think to jump off of that, in general, it's, you know, the experience. I mean, you can learn, you know, only so much in the classroom. I did go to the University of Georgia and was in the music business program, but really what got me into it and helped me lead to where I wanted to be eventually in the live world specifically was having internships. I think I had 6 by the end of it. All were unpaid. And through that, meeting a bunch of people too, because your connections can get you so far, just, you know, networking constantly and getting that coffee and never being afraid to, you know, ask someone to meet with you so that you can gain some knowledge from their experience. And then you never know who the next person could lead you to as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are many pathways to get into the live business because, you know, skills are transferable. You can have many interests and fall into the live music industry because there are so many roles and responsibilities that fall within that realm. I agree with both what Jordan and what Dana shared about internships and about volunteering your time and fostering relationships. It's super key because people will see that you have strong work ethic and that you are willing to apply yourself and show your value, and they will want to invite you to participate in future shows and future live endeavors. So fostering those relationships, learning from people within that space, and just making the right connections are definitely key.
Anything you want to add, Dana?
Well, I took sort of a circuitous route to where I am now. I think I sort of ended up here maybe a little bit by accident. I was like a bartender and then got into doing events independently. But I would say that, you know, if there's something you feel like you really want to do to try to get experience, just try to start doing it on a small scale and see what happens. I was kind of booking like small DIY shows. I worked in nonprofit events for a little while. I kind of, you know, I sort of like gained the skills here and there sort of piecemeal. And I mean, I do definitely agree with just being involved in a venue, being in proximity to the shows in some way will probably help you to get a foot in the door to do that in a fuller context.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think really great advice all around. And something I want to highlight that Amanda sort of shed light on is that, you know, it doesn't need to be a professional internship or an official experience. You can really, you know, immerse yourself within your campus culture, within theater or within your campus studio. That was my first experience, was being the studio manager of an on-campus studio, like within Syracuse's library, just like tiny little place where local artists would record. And, you know, Candace, I know I went to you a few months ago and said, how can I get involved and learn more about tour managing? Because that's something I could see myself in. And your piece of advice was to immerse myself within the local scene and the local venues there, which I think is applicable to everyone as well, especially in cities like New York or Nashville or LA. You know, there's concerts everywhere and venues everywhere that are always looking for volunteers or just folks to get involved. So really great advice. Thanks, everyone. Throw it over to Mia for the next question.
Yes. So I was wondering if you could all share what the biggest misconception about your job is.
I think a lot of times people assume that buyers in particular are just constantly doing outreach, and that's not always the case. For many people who work in established rooms or established promoters, those acts are a lot of times coming to you through agents. So while I do a lot of that, that's mostly not the case. It's mostly managing a calendar versus doing outreach to artists that I'm into, but I still like to do a little bit of that too.
I think for me, the question that I get asked a lot by just like friends and family members is, do you get to meet the artist? And usually the answer is no. But I think a lot of people have the idea that like, oh, it's just, at least for me working in production, it's like this big, like glamorous job, when a lot of the times it's a lot of really long hours, it's a lot of hard work, and a lot of time. And I think, yeah, I think the long hours is something that like you don't realize when you kind of go to a show and you look at it. But really it's a lot. It's can be very overwhelming sometimes actually. But I think worth it. The shows are fun. It's worth it that way.
Yeah, to build on what Amanda is saying, like, I think that people think that booking at a club is just like this kind of like short, fun job. You like talk to these bands, and it is definitely fun, but there's a ton of work and there's a lot of like organizational skills, long hours, you know, people have a lot of access to your time. It's kind of a 24/7 job. And I think people just don't really realize that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's definitely a job that requires you to have many skills, because sometimes you're fulfilling multiple roles within that job. Sometimes you are the booker and you're also settling the shows at the end, and or you are also chiming in on opportunities on marketing and ticketing, and you're managing so many different aspects of it. It's sometimes a few people handling a number of jobs, and sometimes you're working on a larger scale, like for Live Nation, there are a number of people handling a ton of jobs, but still never enough, because it requires so much flexibility and ability and willingness to do more than just what is called to do on any particular moment, because it's a full-on responsibility. And in the end, it's fun, because when you see the shows come to fruition and you know you had a hand in it, that's the exciting part of it, attending shows. But ultimately, there's a ton of hard work, as Dana mentioned and Amanda and Jordan mentioned, a lot of organization skills, and just the ability to extend yourself beyond your specific role. So it's fun, but it requires a lot from one person.
If I could ask a quick follow-up question that might be helpful is, you know, it sounds like all around your jobs, you know, require a lot more of these harder skills than necessarily meets the eye, or necessarily aren't necessarily the most flashy parts, like getting to talk to the artists, like you mentioned. So what are some of the harder skills, whether it's, you know, accounting, like you were sort of seeming to talk about, Candace, with settling up at the end of the shows? What are some skills that could look good on a resume, or that folks could really lean into to be good at these kind of roles?
I think, like Candace was saying, being really organized, especially with your time and your communication. Something I nailed down early on is honestly being a filer with email, to be able to reference something and be able to get back to someone on time is super important, and can be the factor that determines whether you get a show on a certain date or it goes to another venue or another promoter, because you didn't answer in time, or you lost communication, or you forgot to get back to someone, because things move so quickly in the music industry. So yeah, that's something I'd add in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Communication is definitely key, definitely just so important. Being able to just like hop on email and answer and get back to people, just being clear with all the different departments in the venue, so everyone is on the same page. Ops knows what's going on, marketing knows what's going on, booking, and like all those different departments really need to be talking with each other. So I think that's really key. I think also just being adaptable and being willing to kind of move from one idea to the next. If it's like a better idea, being able to just kind of roll with the punches, I think is a really great to have in the live music industry.
Very cool. Thanks, everyone. So for the last of our discussion questions, and I'm sure you've all been asked this a million times, so I apologize in advance, but for those of you who have worked in a venue pre-COVID, as opposed to now, which is not necessarily post-COVID, but sort of in the middle of navigating everything, aside from safety procedures, can you talk a little bit about how your job has changed?
One thing that's really noticeable to me, so Amanda was talking for the last question about communication. Now that we're kind of trying to like move in this like sort of post-COVID space, there's just a lot more communication that goes on. We communicate with ticket holders more, we communicate with bands and agents more. We all kind of have to be a little bit more flexible. There's also more, in my opinion, there's also more of a feeling of camaraderie between us and maybe other venues, just because we've kind of all been through this really crazy experience together of not really being able to work and do what we normally do. I feel like everyone kind of talks more and has a little bit more sympathy and flexibility with each other.
I totally agree with Dana. I think everyone's been a lot more chiller, to put it in a layman's terms, or having more grace in general. Like, we're still losing dates, we're still losing tours, or that are rescheduling again last minute. I think I had a full November, and now I'm trying to fill some dates there because tours moved again. And in a normal world or pre-COVID, I might have gotten a little upset about that, but now I'm just kind of like, you know what, this is the world we're in, and that's okay, and it's going to be okay. Just on to the next thing. Trying to have more understanding for everyone around, because you just really don't know what they're going through at this point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that, what everyone has said so far. I think it's definitely brought our venue staff very close together, because we were all still on and working during COVID, luckily. So now being back, we kind of had a little bit of time to prepare for it. But I think everyone is just being really patient with each other, patient with the tours coming in, and like just getting new information about COVID and how it's just constantly changing all the time. So I think, yeah, we've just been very patient with it, kind of just taking it one day at a time, because everything, we just find out something new and all the policies have to change, all the signage have to change. So just kind of taking it one day at a time and just, just being patient with everyone and everything.
Yes, to everything that everyone said, including much more flexibility and extending our digital muscle a little bit more and exercising other ancillary opportunities that we can maximize in order to be able to enjoy live music, by having virtual opportunities, virtual meet and greets, just really communicating virtually a lot more and extending ourselves a lot more in ways that we hadn't done prior to the pandemic. So everything that everyone said, I definitely agree with, and some.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for sharing. And I'm kind of curious because from a fan perspective, we see the tour dates either being shifted, delayed, or canceled. What does that look like on each of your respective ends? What happens when an artist cancels? How detrimental is that to the venue?
Well, if it's a date that's a week away or 2 weeks away or can't be filled in time to replace, that's a loss for us. It's a loss for our bar. It's a loss for our staff. So, that's been tough, and it's still happening a little bit, and pretty much with no repercussions to the band at this point. And there's nothing we can do about it, and that's okay at this point. I think we hope that, we don't continue to live in this world that operates that way for much longer. But you just kind of have to roll with the punches, as Zara was saying earlier. But if it's a canceled show, it goes away. If it's a reschedule, you're looking for another open date in the time frame that the act's looking for.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's obviously not great for us because we're losing money, we're losing out on parking, we're losing out on all of our food and bev sales. But I mean, it is what it is. If someone has COVID and they can't perform, they can't perform, and we just gotta move on, and hopefully we can reschedule. If not, it's just a loss, unfortunately.
Anything else anyone wants to add before we head into our Q&A? All right, cool. So our first question is from Carla. Carla, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you all first for being here and for your time and sharing your knowledge. I had a question also regarding COVID. I was wondering, as many people probably already know, Austin city limits did not require masks or negative COVID tests or vaccination proof. And I was wondering if that decision for their festival affects other festivals and how they operate, and particularly the festivals who might be requiring vaccination or negative PCR tests.
Definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure all C3 festivals, which they are, required negative tests and vaccine card. I personally attended ACL and did have to show my card. So that's why I'm asking that.
Yes, because all C3 festivals are Live Nation festivals, and Live Nation is requiring vaccination proof. So yes, they have to show proof.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was confused, I think, because of the Texas laws.
I'm curious anyway to hear your thoughts on, how festivals have been going in general. I attended GovBall, which was either, vaccination, proof of vaccination, or a negative COVID test 3 days minimum in advance. So I'm curious to hear all of your perspectives on how festivals reopening has been going.
I manage a band, and we just played Firefly Festival, and that was, to me, it seemed like it was pretty well done. I saw lots of people. I mean, they were very strict about masks, and I thought it went. As well as it could have gone with something being that large of a festival. They were pretty vigilant about checking all of the artist vaccine cards. I saw people out and about with masks. I think it's great that places are doing that so that, larger festivals can come back. It seems like every artist I've talked to has been really in favor of that.
I believe that if it's the standard across the board and more people are exercising it, then it will become normal for us to exercise that process. And everyone who wants to attend will just have that expectation and be able to manage that expectation. If it's kind of like cottage cheese or cheese, it's different requirements or compliance policies in different markets, then that causes a lot of uproar. But I think that the policies have just now been implemented here in Los Angeles, where they are requiring vaccinations to be shown for shows. I think that was a couple weeks ago. So now that it's here in LA, I think that people will just manage that expectation, and if they want to attend the show, they know what's required to do so.
Awesome. Anything else anyone wants to add before we head to our next Q&A question?
I just want to agree with Candace, actually, that it's really helpful when all the venues are on the same page. I think that's what we've kind of been doing here in Baltimore. And I think that, it's really hard for one venue to stand alone and say like, oh, we're going to have this policy. But when everybody agrees and kind of like, it becomes a blanket thing, then it's a lot easier to get people to, to follow that.
Totally. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Carla, for your question.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, we have Alana. Alana, can you hear us all right?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, you're all good.
Amazing. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Alana Aquino. I'm a senior at USC studying music industry. And my question for you today is, I'm wondering if you all can expand on your work-life balance and how you set boundaries for yourself, because I kind of heard some people talking about how the live industry is definitely very fast-paced and kind of a 24/7 job. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead with this one. I sometimes struggle with the work-life balance, not gonna lie, especially when things are very busy and like there's a lot of shows going on. It's definitely hard when you just have to be at work and they're just long days. And then when you do have a day off, you're just kind of really tired and you just want to like do nothing all day. I think just kind of setting those boundaries and making sure that you like talk with your supervisor and say like, hey, like I need time off on these days, or like, hey, I'm working this many hours this week. Is there something we can do about that? But I think prioritizing your mental health, taking off and using your sick time, which is something that I need to be better about, but using your sick time, using your PTO, because like if you have it, which I know not everyone is fortunate enough to have, but if you have it, just try and use it as much as you can. But it's definitely hard when you're working a lot of long hours, but just trying to put your self-care first, I think is really important.
I agree. And I think that Jordan said it earlier, everyone's a little bit more chiller now than they were before. the pandemic. So it really allows for you to prioritize yourself a lot more. Me, I'm a mom and I am a live music executive and business owner. So it's definitely important for me to balance all of those roles and responsibilities and still to continue to move the needle in all areas. But definitely prioritizing myself and my family allows me to sustain so that I can even give the mental capacity required for me to move forward in work and business.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a way to stay on the 8 ball, but also put a stop to it when, hey, if you don't need to answer that person today and it's 8 p.m. and you need to go home or are home and don't need to be answering emails anymore, then you mentally know, hey, it's okay. You can stop. You can put it away, put the phone down, put the computer away, and not think about it for a little while. I think that is definitely something I'm trying to take away from the last year of not doing so much, and walking into a new role in a new city of taking that example with me of, yeah, you can put it away. It's okay. The world's not going to fall apart if you don't answer that email tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so
else?
much.
Oh, thank you, Alana. Sorry. Next, we have a question from Casper. She's unavailable to read her question out loud, but I'm going to read it for her. So Casper asks, what was the show that made you realize you wanted to work in live music, if there was one?
I love this question. For me personally, one of my favorite bands is Bombay Bicycle Club. They're this band from the UK, and I saw them at the Wiltern a few years back while I was in college. And I don't know, there's always when you're watching a show and you just kind of have that moment where you just connect with the artist and just something it sounds beautiful, it looks beautiful. You just feel the energy of the crowd, and that was the show for me.
I don't know if there was a show that I saw that specifically triggered me to want to work in live entertainment, but the show that did it for me where I knew I wanted to go into booking, and that was the path I was going to pursue. The first band I ever booked was Rainbow Kitten Surprise in 2016 before they really popped off at Exit In Nashville. So yeah, seeing that play off from start to finish before anyone knew who they were and it sold out, that's what did it for me and led me to here.
I think I always had an interest in live music. My dad is in a band and I kind of was always around it my whole life. But one of the first shows that I booked was with Future Islands, who were like an opening band at the time. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting. This band is so great. And during that show, this was I think it was probably like 2009 or 10. And during that show, I was like, this is amazing. I want to book more shows, I thought it was something I was going to do once or twice, but then once I started, I was like, oh, I never want to stop doing this.
My path was a little different. I always had a passion for music and for events, and just, I just kind of got led into live music and live entertainment. But one of the earlier shows or tours or stops that I had worked on was Prince. He did a residency here at the Forum several years ago, and it was incredible because he's legendary, and I had a hand in being a part of that and putting those the components of the live events together, and they were incredible. And so, that is what really made me want to continue to pursue a career in live music. But there was not one particular show that really did it for me. I just always knew that I wanted to work in music to some capacity in the event space. And so I've had the honor to do both by working on large scale events.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing, and thank you everyone for submitting your Q&A questions. With that, I will throw it over to Mia for our wrap-up question.
Yes, so I know live music is coming back to many venues in your local cities. So I was wondering if you all have attended any recent shows, maybe even outside of the venues that you all work, and who was the artist that you saw?
I recently attended 2 shows in Las Vegas. I saw Bruno Mars. He did a residency, and I saw Usher. He did a residency in Las Vegas, and they were pretty incredible. They had the whole Las Vegas glitz and glams and everything that you would expect from a Vegas, residency show, but in, pop music. And just really cool to just be back in the element, be back in the momentum of live music, and see really two really incredible live performers.
I just attended ACL weekend 2 the weekend before this past, and got to see Phoebe Bridgers, who is one of my favorite. And then also Miley Cyrus, I think killed it on Saturday or on Friday. Yeah.
I've gone to a few shows so far. I saw Local Natives at the Greek, Sylvanesso at the Greek, and then St. Vincent at the Hollywood Bowl, which, oh, she was amazing. Oh my God, I love her.
I was there. She was.
Oh my gosh, she's just like out of this world, like total rock star, like just changes personality, like for each different era of her. Like, oh my gosh,
Amazing guitar
so
player.
good.
Oh,
so
good.
cool, so good. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've really been to any shows except for the ones that I've booked. I guess I did go to Firefly, and that was really amazing. That was the first festival I've been to in a really long time. I got to see Peach Face, the band that I manage, Turnstile, Girl in Red. That was pretty cool. So
Very cool. I'm curious, Jordan, were you at the set at ACL where they cut Phoebe's last song?
I was, and actually the agent had just walked by me, so I was wondering what he was thinking when that happened. I thought it was a mistake at first, and then realized what had happened. But yeah, I gotta agree with her. That was bullshit.
Yeah, I don't foresee Phoebe or her camp wanting to play ACL again.
Oh no, it's fine. It happens to many. That's not the first, and it's not the last. They just
really.
I don't know.
Wow.
It might have just been the first, because I'm also a huge Phoebe fan. It might have just been like the first artist I've been interested in. I've seen that happen too, but I've never heard of that, especially during like a song like I Know the End that just needs to be played through.
I think the producers are probably pretty upset with the sound engineers on that one, but I've seen it happen at Bonnaroo before.
Yeah, I did think it was cool what ACL came back with and donating to for charity of choice. Really good.
They patched it up well, but
To make up for it.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Before we wrap up, I do want to throw it over to Candace to talk a little bit about Live Out Live, since we are presenting this panel in partnership with them, and we've worked so closely with them, and just so proud to work with y'all so often. So go for it.
Thank you, Chella. Yeah, I'm so honored to be here and to partner with this organization that definitely shares a lot of the DNA that Live Out Live has. We are creating a platform and a safe space for people of diverse background, wanting to offer them the same type of insight and platform and resources and information and knowledge and pipeline opportunities and connectivity with the right people that you guys are connecting all of us with. So I'm just really honored to be here. Live Out Live, again, is inspired by my journey in the live music industry as a woman of color, and wanting to create opportunity and resources for more women to be in positions like some of these amazing women who participated on this panel today, who are in positions to actually move the needle in the live music industry, and who have a voice and to share their voice. So I'm just really honored to be here amongst those type of women and just this team in general. But Live Out Live, you can follow us on social media at liveoutlive_LA, or you can find us on our website at www.liveoutlive.com. And feel free to reach out to me. We offer all kinds of resources, internships. We create job opportunities. I get jobs from the likes of Live Nation and AEG all the time, and I share those with my community and offer them opportunities to apply directly so that they can, bypass the line and have an opportunity to put their name in the hat. Any women and any non-binary groups, any diverse groups, and any people of color that are interested in the live music industry, please tap in with us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Candace. Really appreciate it. And Mia, I'll let you close us out for tonight.
Yes, thank you all so much for coming, for those who came, and also to our wonderful panelists. This was so great meeting you all and learning so much. If you want to find out more about any of our upcoming events, I definitely encourage you all to follow us on all of our social media platforms. It's just at Color of Music Collective, and you can check out our website, colorofmusiccollective.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. But with that, I hope everyone has a great rest of their night, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you
Great
so
to meet
much.
y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.